The Sabbath has kind of always been since God created the heavens and the earth. He modeled it from the very beginning in creation. For 6 days he worked in creation, and on day 7 he rested. And the reason he did that is to set a pattern for humanity in which we could rest. And so Sabbath comes from literally the beginning of time. God formed it, he modeled it, he showed us what it means. And so Sabbath is the idea that we kind of take time and we rest. We do the things that fulfill us. We engage in worship with God. We spend time with our family. We do something fun and enjoyable. We stop our work and we rest. Now, God did this for more reasons than just allowing us to rest. He did it in a way in which we would kind of reach the end of ourselves. I think when God created Adam and Eve, he put them in charge of working, and he knew that working was good, but he also knew that working could become the all-consuming pursuit of our lives. And so God instated Sabbath so that we would kind of reach an end of ourselves, or we'd regularly hit a rhythm in our week where we'd stop and just let go and let God be in charge, where we'd say, my plans, my calendar, my agenda, they all come to an end. And on this day I worship God because he's in control. He's in control above all of my work. He's in charge of all of my plans. And he can do far more in the 6 days that I'm giving him than I could do with the full 7. And so Sabbath is really all about us having the perspective of God being sovereign, God being in control, and him being the one who causes us to rest so that we realize that we're not the ones in charge. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from Sabbath. But this wasn't always understood, I don't think, really well, especially in Jesus' time. The ideas behind Sabbath, again, just like fasting, it kind of became legalistic in Jesus' day. There was all kinds of misconceptions and ideas around what the Sabbath was about. It was a very rigorous set of rules. Rabbis in that time would debate over what could and couldn't be done on the Sabbath. The text we see here in Mark 2, Jesus' disciples are simply plucking off heads of grain as they're walking through the field and eating them. And that's considered Sabbath breaking for some of the rabbis. They see that as work being done, and just almost preparing a meal, that's considered breaking the rules. Some rabbis would actually argue over how many steps could or couldn't be taken on the Sabbath. And they would debate over what is acceptable and what isn't. I don't know, is it 572 steps? No, or is it 212? They would argue over this. And Jesus would arrive and say, you guys are missing the point. His exact words in Mark 2 were, the Sabbath was made for people, not people for the Sabbath. It's not about us memorizing what we can and can't do on Sabbath. It's not about us having this one rigorous day. It always has to be Saturday in the Old Testament times. Today we have the freedom to choose what day of the work week works best for us. Being a pastor, I don't get to take a whole lot of Sundays off. So my family, we regularly Sabbath every Friday. The calendar is clear, nothing gets put on it. We don't spend time with other people. We rest and hang out with our family. We pray together. We read our Bibles together. We go to a movie together. We go outside. We go to the pool. We just enjoy one another's company. I don't mow the lawn. I don't work outside. My wife tries not to work around the house. We diligently pause and reflect on the goodness of God, and we realize that he's in charge of our agenda. And so Jesus would arrive and would say things like this to help us realize that these laws, these things that God modeled, and the law that he gave in the Old Testament was ultimately for our good, in understanding that God's in charge and that we need to rest and enjoy his presence. It's not a set of laws that we have to measure up to. It's a guideline, a rhythm that we need to live in our everyday lives. So yeah, we still need to do Sabbath today. We need to do Sabbath regularly. Every week we should be taking a day off just to Sabbath. Now, does it have to be a certain day of the week? Or are there certain things you can and can't do on the Sabbath? I think Christ came to fulfill the law to give us the freedom to pursue him how it fits in our lives. He's wired us all uniquely and differently. So Sabbath is going to look different in your life than it will in mine. But we're still called to live in that rhythm that God has modeled since the beginning of creation, where we regularly stop our work and we relax with our family. We enjoy God's presence and we do the things that fulfill us, fill us back up so that we can serve him the other 6 days of the week.